Welcome to the Mark Attwood Show, Adventures in a Cosmic Suit. If you've been on my Telegram channel recently, you will know that I have recorded 4 UFOs in about 5 days. And I've seen thousands of UFOs over 30 years, and I've never, ever once captured them on camera. But in the last few days, I've been sat out in the garden, and they literally have just appeared and basically said, "You ready to film me?" And I filmed them, and I've been putting them up on Telegram. So please click the link near the video to join the Telegram channel if you've not already. Also, make sure that you're on the email list because YouTube gave me a strike. You know, I don't know where this video is going to end up, but if I'm allowed back on YouTube, it will be there. But the thing is, the last time I lost a channel, this is what they did. They just picked random videos from the past and said, "No, strike, 3 strikes, you're gone." So please join the email list. Now, one of my subscribers emailed me recently, and it sounded very, very interesting. She describes herself as an Andromedan Starseed transformation coach. So this sounds like it's going to be an interesting conversation. So please welcome Grace Artoria. Hello, Grace.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Very good. Battling the nerves and very, very happy to be here. It definitely felt there was like divine timing in contacting you and you wanting to go forwards with this. So it's all great. Action stations.
Well, I couldn't really resist the email. There's so much going on, ET wise, disclosure wise, spiritually, that it's too interesting not to explore. So tell us a bit of background about yourself, Grace, and what it is that you want to achieve with this chat today.
Okay, so when I was younger, I had visions and experiences which told me very clearly to a child's mind of age about 5 that I didn't belong to my family and my home was somewhere else. And I remember they called them night terrors, but I remember getting all this really high level, in-depth information through this vision and then seeing my family in front of me at the same time and thinking, what am I going to do with that? Like, these people are looking after me, I depend on them, but they're telling me that I don't actually belong to them, like I'm not actually their child. So this, at a child of like 5, like fractured my psyche, and I needed to survive. So I basically went along with it and tried so hard to be part of the family because that's I love that. I love the family unit, I love the togetherness and belonging, but I never felt like I belonged. I could never kid myself long enough. So this caused depression in my 20s, massive depression and truth seeking. So I went on along the enlightenment path and eventually worked with a Zen master and learned like different ways to get to truth by dissolving the ego through unusual methods. So I've had a non-conventional route, let's say. But then it got to a point and I thought, oh, yeah, I get it. Yeah, enlightenment, I get it. I was at this point of like, yeah, whatever. But then, bang, I had a Kundalini Awakening at my early 30s. And then that's when I basically like lost my mind and everything just fell apart. And then my past came right into my present, where I needed to then look at the fact that there was, extraterrestrial presence, and it was not just a presence, it was inside of me. And then you go through the, oh my god, I'm an alien and everyone else is not an alien. You go through that stage and then you're like, oh, hang on a minute, holy shit, everyone's a fucking alien. And like, what the fuck? And it's like, it's this like fractured experience that has been like drummed in over those years of life, which has just had to become healed and integrated to a point where you can hold like extraterrestrial like wisdom or knowing at the same time as paying your gas bills and like speaking to people who have absolutely no bloody idea what you're talking about, and like communicating different ways. So it's been a case of having to be very, very patient, very, very compassionate, and releasing a heck of a lot of trauma and not taking it personally. So basically it's got to a point now where I'm like actually starting to become one person rather than the ET version and then the human version. Is actually becoming one. And this coincides with the disclosure that's coming in because it's all timed, So that's a quick synopsis just to give you an idea of like, where it's coming from.
Okay. So you're getting information from the Andromedans, right?
Yes.
And what are they telling you at the moment?
Right. So, sorry, I have to. So it's such a lot, you know.
Mm.
Okay, right. So first of all, I just want to just put out there, as we're like multidimensional, we can be connected to one group or many groups, and that was my experience for a long time. But it wasn't until I got to a point of like saturation, and I thought, you know what, f this, I'm gonna choose the timeline that I want from personal gain for me. So it wasn't the good one or the whatever. It was just like my intention was because I want to be happy here. And I realized that meant that disclosure had to happen. So once I made that, I then connected to a group that I was aware was waiting for me to get to this point. And then when I connected to them, they were like, we're Andromedan. And that was a shock to me because normally it would have been Sirius, who I would have connected to. So this was amazing, and this was like a homecoming. And what they kind of told me is that they've been working with me all this time, but I hadn't been able to put a name to it, a label to it, because it just wasn't the divine time. So they were giving the message saying that basically, like, so in my past, I just wanted to leave the body, right? I did all crazy fucking things. Like I even went into breatharianism, and I was just like emaciated, like I just want to leave, like going into all these really extreme fasts and all these kinds of stuff to like get out my body. But it wasn't until I grounded and I really embraced the duality, and I embraced the pain and the shit and the blood and the crap that happens here, I was able to actually move through that suffering into another state, which is what they're talking about. So what they're saying to me is that the objective is for me to become, and likewise other people, to become the ET version. And I thought this is a bit like, comic book like, but they literally are putting it to me in the way that we have bodies on different different like star seeds, or maybe on ships, wherever it is, we have these bodies which are like, we're the avatars, we're the disposable things, but the real body is not, that's the one. And so they were showing me like, and so this is so complicated, but it's maybe not, it may make sense. So I lay on my bed, and then I can feel my actual like Andromedan body in like overlapping my body, and then I just feel a process of little changes happening inside. And for me, the human me is a case of surrender, always surrender, and always ego death. It's just that kind of grinding down to bring this body, which has like a higher level of consciousness. So I'd say it's very similar to the higher self. Now, so what the exciting thing is because I followed the narratives with like, raising vibration and then becoming like invisible, like the Celestine prophecy, like just like popping off, or I might suddenly grow wings, or like turn into a unicorn. Like I am like not kidding you. These things were actually serious like things. So I think maybe this is going to happen. I'm very open-minded. And so to hear this information that actually the physical change is going to happen within my body, that was new information, but it made sense because it can be actually like tangible. So they've given me some tips on how to make such a dramatic change in your body, which I want to share with you, because this is the practical stuff that I'm doing right now. So I also need to make clear that I'm on this process, I'm going through it. So I'm not finished. I'm not like coming from a perspective that like I know this is like, this works or whatever, but what I do understand is that what I'm given, I must follow, and then the results come through. So I'm just sharing it because it is very exciting and liberating also. This is coming from somebody who hated being here and wanted to leave, like all throughout my 20s. Leaving was a serious thought. So it's just amazing how now when something is happening, something massive, like just like you say about seeing the ships, something is happening. And if we can be totally in love with that and be ready for that, then it's just going to be blissful, just absolutely blissful.
Yeah, I can feel that actually. Last year when I started learning about, I've had so much information coming in that it's just been a case of trying to sift through to find the thing that resonates the most. And when I was told about the ships coming, it kind of like took away my future temporarily, because I was like, well, what's the point in doing anything if we're going to go up on these ships? And that kind of thing. And also when you say about wanting to leave, so many people that I've known in my life literally did want to leave and did leave, even recently. So it's good that you're here, because obviously you're meant to be here, and obviously you're meant to be sharing this information. I think some people watching this will be like, how exactly do you connect to them, and what format does the communication take? I think people are fascinated by that.
Yes.
You answer that.
Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's one of the things that they wanted to talk about. Okay, so first of all, my abilities have always been open, so I'm naturally a medium. So I can connect naturally and hear things from like beyond the veil. Okay, and it's kind of like an antennae. Sorry, you just you kind of like just move the antennae and then connect to whoever, right? So so it's hard to explain something that like comes naturally, but I will try my best, right? It's for me, connection is all about surrender, and it's all about dropping the attachments to the physical body and the mind to make space to receive information. So if you can get to a place where you are either distracting the mind, like just before you go to sleep is ideal, because you're very much in that zone. So for people who are starting, that is the best place to do it. So really just relax. And then it's kind of at that space where you can't really remember what's happening, but you kind of can. It's like, that is a really great way to get solid connection. However, you can connect at any time, at any day, right? It's just a case of not attaching to the world around you and what's happening in your body and your thoughts. So meditation's a great way of like training the thoughts, bringing them back to a certain place. And then it's like you're able to kind of open a tube and you can just be empty to receive information. Because one of the problems is that when you receive information, sometimes it's not what you want to hear. And it's never because it's like a nefarious reason. It could be just very inconvenient for the ego. So I would say that people watching this are probably receiving information already. It's just that maybe they may identify it as like their inner voice chatter or something like that. And it's a case of just discerning where that voice is coming from. Sometimes it's our own voice. Sometimes it's a voice of the programming we've had in their life. And then sometimes it's this other voice. And as soon as you clock it, it's super quick, because then you get a feeling or like a vibration or a knowing, and you can recognize it. And this information can come through at any point all day, whenever. It's just a case of putting your intent and practicing it. So there's also another thing I wanted to mention was the power of empathy. Because when people talk about empaths, it's usually, I don't know whether you agree, but it usually has like a negative connotation, because a lot of people suffer the effects of being an empath. So what they're saying is that, remember, if you do identify as being an empath, understand that it's actually a clairsentient ability. So it's a psychic ability, but you've actually got it trained in areas that aren't going to help you and aren't going to be useful to other people, because your job is to actually be the true you, be the real you, or be the best version or whatever, get your own, be happy, right? That's the main bloody reason, right? And so like when we're training on other people, often we're training on people who either don't want to change or don't want to do anything with it apart from kind of use your energy. So if you just train that ability of empathy up to like a familiar voice or a connection that you feels good and you can trust it, then you can actually use that ability to communicate. And this is really useful because, well, first of all, it's a little bit difficult at first, because if you're a natural empath, you're kind of like, you feel like your job is to help other people because you can hear their problems and their issues way more than you can your own. But once you actually release that and then you focus in another place, you can actually still feel people's shit, right? But you train it, and the more you train it, you start to kind of allow that to drop away, because you're choosing a different timeline through that choice, and you get to make contact. And if you're an empath, it'll be instant and it'll be reassuring, you know? Do you feel comfortable being here, rather than just suffering the effects of other people who aren't doing the healing work, who aren't wanting to be progressive, if that makes sense?
It does to me, yeah. I mean, that's what I've been going through the last couple of years, is recognizing these communications, these multidimensional communications, and feeling the resonation and the vibrations, and discerning between the voices or the information, you know. And the stars have been particularly good, useful to me in that respect, because I'm usually too busy in the day. But if I go out in the garden, it's kind of like meditation time, and if the stars are out, and I think that's why they keep popping up and these ships keep moving around. But yeah, that's really interesting for people watching this that have never done it. And I think that what you said about doing it before you go to sleep, that's actually when I also do it. Then I try to connect then, and I've had so many interesting evenings basically in bed with different information and physical beings coming in, and you know, I have to clear the room before I go to sleep, put it that way.
Yeah.
there's so much noise actually if you sit and listen to it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So what else are they telling you? What's the you talked about you choosing the timeline that would be good for you, and then getting disclosure happening.
Yes.
I think that's certainly a timeline that I'm manifesting, because
Yes.
I
Yes.
want disclosure more than anything else.
Yes. Okay, so right. So there are like probably three basic points. What they were saying was that time literally is the patriarchy. So when we're wanting to go beyond the patriarchy and we're wanting to break through this, it's actually time, it being Cronus and being Satan, etc., etc. So what they've been like teaching me is that like time exists, like say in this funnel where basically thoughts exist and life exists, and you know, everything that's happening in the world exists, and we need to make this shift just outside of time, and that has to be permanent from now on. So this is why it's a bit scary, because this is a massive shift. It only takes a little tweak, and I'll go into that in a minute, but it has to be permanent. So we have to really go beyond the idea of holding on to anything in order to make this shift outside of time, so that we're in that abundance, but also magician embodiment or instant manifestation, or like rainbow body, all those kinds of things are outside of time. So what they've like always advised me is, they've always pushed me against predictions, things like that. They won't let me take them on, because often that keeps me in time, because it's security. Like times like daddy, you know, oh daddy, like, you know, look after me and he'll protect me. The truth is there is that daddy is keeping you trapped in the matrix. You know, it's like, so we have to kind of like evolve out of the need of something for us to feel safe. So that means that we need to go into well, the worst case scenario is like insanity. It's like going beyond like logic, and that is extremely terrifying for us when we're breaking through. But it's how we need to go. We need to go into this flow. So so basically this shift, right, it seems massive, but it's actually not. It's this state of outside of time is always present, right, at any single moment. And the wonderful thing is, when we shift into that, thoughts cease to exist, and really the thing that does stay is contact. So when we're in time, the thoughts are always determined by time. It's like, this is going to happen when this happens, or this is it, or you're this, or whatever. It always relates either the past or the future, keeping you locked. And like I've tried many years of like trying to still my mind, like go through things, you know, meditate and blah blah blah, but the reality is that it's like a never ending thing. You have to leave it to actually be free of it. And when that shift happens at the beginning, you can still feel time. Like it still feels like, am I in time or am I not? I'm not exactly sure. So you have to go through that place of feeling shit. You know, I'm doing things that I shouldn't be doing, or I'm not listening to this, or I'm not obeying this, or I'm doing things completely mentally. But then once you get evidence from success from outside of time, which I recommend writing down in a journal, like things that I did which were completely crazy, or like not like me, or different things I did which worked out to be amazing, we kind of like build this muscle of independence and sovereignty so that we're able to be in with our own connection. Because then when we have our own connection, nothing can affect us, and we're in connection with our own ability to manifest. So that's the main thing about the shift and the releasing of the matrix and the patriarch and everything like that. And it doesn't entail really to do anything physical in terms of buying something or meditating for like hours and hours and hours. Because I don't know about you, Mark, but in the last 7 years, I felt like meditation couldn't be something I just went away and just did it, like, oh, and then everything was better. Every day was meditation. Every day. It was like, I remember when I used to sit in my 20s and it was like pain when I was meditating. It was bloody awful. And then when it was done, I felt better. But then I realized my life actually became one big meditation where it's painful every bloody day because I'm feeling all this kinds of stuff and all this information that you're saying. And then it wasn't until I just feel like, oh, bloody hell, like every day's meditation. I've got to get used to this. But now it still feels like it's shifted. Whatever's shifted, it's like the good stuff's coming, you know? And it's like, instead of it being like every day's meditation, every day is the unknown. Like every day is in this space of pure potential. And one thing that they were like wanting to like prepare people about is that this feeling's fucking amazing. Like it's amazing. So like in our like past, if you had like been drinking or taking drugs, it would have been an attempt to recreate this knowing of this instant manifestation, this high frequency, and to get there, because deep down we knew this was always reality, but we were in this controlled environment. And so for some people it's going to be scary, because it's going to be like, if they've gone through like taking drugs and drinking and that kind of path and they felt like it was like trauma around it, the frequency of going into the unknown can trigger that same trauma. So it's about clearing it and knowing that it's going into this space of like pure potential. Does that make any sense? Not kind of
100%. I've mentioned this before, but I wrote a blog post, I don't know, 8-10 years ago, called Stepping into the Void, because when I look back at my life, all the most amazing things I've ever done have been when I have just not known what was going to happen, and it was like a big black hole, and I just jumped in anyway. And as you were talking, it reminded me of a number of things. Firstly, there was a parade here, St. Patrick's Day parade, and there was a guy dressed as Kronos next to a guy dressed in a gas mask behind two children dressed as needles. Right, it was totally satanic. Right in the middle of the parade, middle of the day, and people clapping like this, and I'm like, oh my god. It's everywhere. And this, you know, when you said about letting go, that's a very clear message I got 3 years ago, when I was not in a good space, and the message was, you have to let go of everything. And I've been through many things and times when I've had to literally let go, and it's so powerful. And also plant medicine has been really useful in this respect as well, because I went down a path of peyote and ayahuasca and all of that. And often when you explain those, when I remember being frightened, of nervous of doing those things before I did them. But when you do that, you know, especially with ayahuasca, you do enter a space where time doesn't exist, and you're in a different dimension. And it's generally one of it is an amazing place to be. And instant manifesting, I've been doing that pretty much my whole life, but especially recently, I've been manifesting things like crazy. So I mean, my own personal testimony here, based upon what you said, is that I agree with everything you're saying. That's exactly what's happening, and and we're in that process right now. and people need to not be afraid of it and not have any fear, and just learn to enjoy it, which is what you're saying, because it's a blissful place to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So another thing is like the fear of being oneself as well. When we're growing up and we're being purely see-through, that a lot of trauma can happen at that time when we are either abandoned or betrayed or pushed away because we're exhibiting our true authentic self. And this is something that even though we all want to be our true authentic self, there is a lot of fear around actually going there, because there are like things that are like from the past which have like told us you must never do this. So as we go into out of time, it also goes into a state of not really being able to control the way you come across or control the way you are. It's like, because in essence you're becoming very transparent. So that's important to mention, because it's not just about being, facing a fear from breaking free from apparent safety. You're breaking, you're going back to a place where basically you could potentially get what's the word, like pushed away. I can't remember the word, but it can bring up really deep-seated fears, especially for starseeds. So there was a specific message. So, and the frequency from Andromeda, right? It is very masculine, and it's just very direct. And the way that they've like kind of brought me up or brought me through is that I need to go beyond good and bad and right and wrong. And this is super important, because those good and bad and right and wrong are basically a product of the matrix. And it's ironic that to be able to do a path which we think is good, we have to actually go beyond the labels of good and bad. Because what they're saying is that when we're in our true authentic self and we're on that timeline that we want, acting without thought or acting within intuition adds to the magic. It's a very high potent place. And so for people who are like wanting to kind of like don't want to show this or don't want to do this, but they don't want to do that because of what happened in the past, it can feel treacherous. So it's important for people to understand that going beyond self-judgment of like I'm bad or I'm good as well, because that equally is traps, because it's bullshit. We are just us. We are neither one or the other. But any holding on to that keeps us in the matrix. So this leads back to specifically situations that are happening on the earth that are really bad. We talk like with like Satanism and all those kinds of things that are really bad. Ironically, we need to be able to look at that equanimously and be able to go beyond that attachment to wanting to fight it or wanting to make it wrong or make it go away. Even any kind of wanting to do anything to it actually keeps us stuck in the matrix. So it's a case of really bringing our attention and dial really back into what do we really want, and learning how to act without thought, learning how to act spontaneously and trust. So it's like trust in the creator again, because something that the matrix did, it destroyed our trust of creator, and basically said, no, you need to trust the false creators. And so it's about us taking this massive leap of faith, going, actually, I am provided for, I am enough, and the way that I'm naturally designed is actually perfect. And then that enables us to then move into our actual birthright, which is abundance ultimately.
Take a breath.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff. So you're feeling optimistic?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. And it shifts every day. Every day. And the more I do this work, right, stepping out of time, I see people in my life changing. It's no more about helping other people. That is yesterday. Today, it's about shifting inside myself and seeing other people change. It's like it's very much like we are the center of our universes, and it's really little switches within us that changes the whole thing. So it's a very empowering place. Yes, it feels like a lot of responsibility, but not really when you understand you can like create really what you want to do. But it's been amazing, like getting real, and like you say, really quick evidence. So but you know, it's yeah.
So what's your 3D life been like? How did you get to the point where you're now a transformation coach?
Yeah.
What did you have a 3D life before you got to, you know, normal type jobs and things like that?
Yeah, kind of. So like I was a chiropractor, and I noticed that I just I just felt so unsuccessful. I just couldn't seem to toe the line. And like I tried, you know, and I'd have people come and see me and I'd look at their spines and I'd think, yeah, you've got a relationship problem that's affecting your lumbar spine, you know, and I couldn't say that, you know. Yeah, I'd be like, oh no, you've got a fixation on L3, L4. We need to adjust it. And I was just lying, but I wasn't lying because that was what they wanted to hear. But it was absolute nightmare. So I was just like, you know. So so I was split, Mark, all the time. I felt like I couldn't rest here. I couldn't be here. I didn't really understand who I was, and I kept saying, you know, I don't know who I am. You know. So after that, then I retrained as a hypnotherapist. After I went on the spiritual path with a guru, and so because I understood that everything was in the mind, and this is why like I'm talking with you today, because what I understand is that the technology we really the technology we really need is just in the mind, and everything is just tools for us enable to access the mind, because the mind is so powerful that you would not believe it. Like literally, you can't believe how powerful the mind is. And so using tools are a really useful way to be able to access that potential within us. So, and then even as a hypnotherapist, I, you know, helping people stop smoking. Well, I love smoking. You know, it's just like telling people you shouldn't smoke. I just like, oh my God, like Mark, there's like more to life than this. I was thinking, I want to use that skill, but I didn't know how, you know, until when the virus happened. I remember I was like, right, I'm gonna spring into action now. You know, maybe I'll be able to live here and be myself. So I did a talk down at one of the rallies about mind control. And it was it was like I was like halfway through it, like going blah 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 blah, and then I had someone going screaming at me, "You blah blah blah," and I was like, "Fucking hell!" Like it's a bit of a shock, and I looked down, and it was somebody from my team. It was like somebody from the rally calling me a shill, and I was just like, "Holy fuck!" I was like, "Fuck this!" I was like, "You fucking kidding me?" And I was like, it was like one of those points you're like, what do you want me to do? I thought, like, what the hell? So I thought that was going to be the time when I'd come out of the ET closet and then be able to be myself, but it wasn't. It was another 2 years of being able. I had to not get attached to that story, and you know, so and that it feels very isolating because you think, oh, there's these people who might feel like my tribe. I want to connect to them, but with the Andromedans, they were very much keeping me away from certain things so that I didn't get, I don't know, it's quite strict, the energy, if you know what I mean. So I had to go through a lot of like purging, a lot of like processing. So it good, and it turned out to be good, but it didn't feel like that at the time, you know. Felt like what the hell, literally what the hell am I doing here? But now I can understand. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I know that it's happening and we are transforming. It's, you know, it's not going to be a case of them coming. It's going to be a case of us becoming them and it happening. So it's a really, really beautiful time.
So I know it's not supposed to be attached to time, but we still use this language. What are you? I know, and also you're not doing predictions, but what do you feel is this process? Whereabouts in this process are we?
In terms of what?
Ascension, 3D to 5D, all these other labels that people have, you know, transformation. I mean, you know, there's so many different versions of this that I've been studying for years, trying to work out what 5D is. I mean, it's been at least 10 years I've been trying to work that out. Although I think I'm almost there quite a lot of the time, actually. And it's a good place. Sorry about my phone, it keeps making noises. Yeah, that's just reminded me. I got a message just before this from a friend, because I taught them a little manifesting trick, and he's been doing it for a week, and he's just sent me a message just before this call saying it's unbelievable, everything's just happening like that. Yeah, so the question is that everything's beeping. Beep, 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 beep. I'm surprised the car alarm hasn't gone off. That normally goes off in the middle of one of these calls. Yeah, the question is what this, however you define the process, there is definitely something happening. And from what I'm seeing from WhatsApp groups, Telegram groups, and things like that, people are still agitated over what's going on in terms of what, you know, the virus, the Ukraine, the China, Russia, blah blah blah, and they're all caught up in the drama of it and starting to slag each other off and fight amongst each other and everything else. But really, I just feel like I'm gliding through it, and you know, I'm more interested in the ships that come at night and giving my kids good memories every day. You know, that's kind of where I'm focused. But if we assume that process is something that everybody's got a kind of definition for, what's your take on that, and where do you think we are?
Okay, so first of all, the question that you're asking, if you're so where are we at in this process, that would be a question that they wouldn't allow me to ask, because within the question it implies time, and that is something that they just they will not ever give me an answer to that, because it would take me out of my power. So what I understand is that we are right next door to the whatever you're talking about, like that, the potential, the future of like contact. It's right here. It's like literally here. It's like, it's to do with our responsibility. It's to do with our choice. So it's literally about. It's about us understanding that our, like, the world that we're in essentially is, from a very high perspective, is our creation. We created this. So it's pointless arguing about it, and it's pointless getting into the in-depths about it, because when we really strip the soul back right to the top, to the logos, we fucking created this matrix. So it's a case of just acknowledging, you know what, that's really shit. That's really good. Yes, there's duality. And now, you know what? I'm past that. I want something else. And you're having that detachment from everything. And then just like starting your day and just being in that 0 point all the time, and allowing, surrendering your preferences, and just allowing that 0 point and that instant manifestation and that point to come through. So it's really about letting go of our issues and stuff. Now, like a lot of us have been doing this. We've been healing stuff and going through, like, you know, childhood traumas and releasing all of this stuff. And that's been happening on a collective level, whilst the issues on the world get more. Like, we have to start processing that. But really, for the answer for the people is just it's simply just letting go of that. And that can be a bit of an ego death in itself, because a lot of us can be really driven to heal the problems on earth, or driven to eradicate evil, or to do something. But really, the mission isn't about doing anything in duality or the matrix. Our mission is actually just embodying our true self, and in you know, receiving our true gifts that we've always had, reclaiming them rather.
This phone really is being very noisy. I'm sorry. I've never known it do this. Sorry, I'm going to turn it off.
That was the jackpot noise. You know,
yeah.
like, ding, 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 ding.
I take all the signs all the signs are good. So do you help people with this process now? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, well, because it's like I'm literally going through it now. Like I set up a weight loss program so that I'm really super excited about like helping people create the body of their dreams, because that time is coming now. So I use technology that I'm talking about in terms of mind technology and certain actions and behaviors to leave that kind of like, you know, leave the kind of like the genetics and leave the programming that we're embodied, so that we can be open to embrace like anti-aging, you know, all these kinds of embrace different energies to be able to achieve different things in our body, so that you're really unlimited. You're not limited by this aging process that we've been conditioned to go through, which is a load of bollocks, you know.
Yeah.
And so for me, I specifically want people to be happy here, right? Because that was my main issue, you know. And like you can have what you want, and also like enjoy physicality in a free way. Because often when I wanted to leave, I was like, fuck this, I'm going. And they'd be like, you do realize you won't be able to eat toast? And I'd be like, mm. And they'd be like, you do realize that you won't be able to play with your cat? And I'd be like, mm. And I realized, fuck, it is really good at being here. You know, I've just got to find a way to really, you know, to make it work for me. And so that's where this kind of program was born from.
Yeah. It's a challenge for a lot of people. I mean, most people seem to be very unconscious about, you know, I was talking to one of my son's friends yesterday about this. I said, look, you know, you go to school, you get these exams that you're supposed to get, and then you go and get a job, then you go to university, then you get into loads of debt, then you come out of university, and before you know it, you've got a mortgage. And I said, what does mortgage mean? Death grip in French. And then you're in this system, and before you know it, you're my age and you've done nothing. And then and you know, what's it for? What's it for? I said, we don't. And I was at an airfield actually. I took him flying, and he had his first, because he said the other week he wanted to be a pilot. I said, well, if you want to be a pilot, you need to get into a plane. He said, oh yeah, how do I do that? I said, well, airfield near me, off we go. And we, you know, he went flying, and it was amazing just to see his face when he did that. But that's it seems quite a rare thing that people have the ability to just step out of themselves and do that, and step into the void and just make things happen. Because one of the things that's annoyed me about this period of time is the amount of people, especially the sort of truther awakened type people, who are sat there just waiting for XRP to go up, for gold and silver to go up, for AMC shares to go up. I mean, I've done all of that. I've got all of that, but I'm not relying on any of it, because my message has always been, what are you going to do today? You know, and that's the thing. People just, you know, it's getting into that habit of going, well, you know, how am I going to make this an amazing day? That's what I try to think every morning. And it's just, it's not actually that difficult to shift, is it?
No.
But sometimes you just need a repetition of the message for people to start to get it.
Yes.
I remember listening to The Power of Now in my car, and you know, really, he's just saying one thing for like 6 hours. It's the power of now. Do you get it?
No, say it again.
Yeah, and I'm like in the car going, yeah, all right, Eckhart, I've got it now. But it is, you know, and that's you know, mantras. And I remember doing a ceremony with some Sikhs, and they turned up to this peyote ceremony, and these big guys in kilts, right? I'd never seen Sikhs like this. I didn't even know they wore kilts. And they were amazing guys, and they just sat there, and they do these cannabis ceremonies where they have loads of cannabis, and then they just repeat. What is it? Can't remember what the mantra. It's the one that the Buddhists do down the streets in London when they're trying to sell you something. Oh, it's gone. But anyway, it was just like repeat, playing the drums and the sitar. And it's a very, very powerful thing, very powerful experience to go through something like that. But in your day-to-day life, to shift from the programming, when really this is all about mind control. You know, I've said often that I was really mind controlled as a kid, brainwashed. You know, I was brainwashed, willfully brainwashed. I mean, I get flashbacks to some of the things I used to say to people. I'm like, oh God, I can't believe I used to think that. You know, I used to love the royal family. You know, it was all queen and country for me. I'm totally the opposite now. So yeah, how do people engage with you? How do you actually help people to do that?
Well, I was going to share some tips, right? Something that you can do today, right? So the way that I developed my ability to speak to them was through acting. So becoming different people. So this is something you can actually do in your day. If you act out of character, and you don't have to do it around your family and your friends, you can practice it with strangers. Like simply hold your body in a different position, even an accent or something, or do something acting out of character is a really
I
fantastic
used to do
way.
this all the time.
It doesn't surprise me.
No, I love doing this because if I'm on holiday somewhere, I'll talk in the accent of wherever I'm ordering food, or you know, at the restaurant or the bar. I remember going into a bar in Wales once, going, 2 pints of lager, isn't it? And then really bad Welsh accent. But it's really liberating when you do that.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's that feeling. It's that feeling of no limits, freedom. Like I say, it can be scary, but we've got to get used to that, because scary is just high vibe, which is excitement. It's getting used to that kind of feeling. Remember, we've been dumbed down in thinking that security is safety, when really security is death. So we have to go into like fear, excitement, or something different is actually security, because that is us being free.
Well, that's interesting, because I was also talking about this yesterday, about the fact that as a kid I was scared. I remember going on the roller coaster in Blackpool and being terrified, you know, when I was about 4 or 5, and then being terrified being on tall buildings, but then wanting to become a pilot. And then the first time that I did aerobatics was when I was about 13. And the pilot asked me, do you want to do a loop the loop? And I said, first time I was up, I said, no, because I was too scared. And then the next time I went, yes, just did that. And then I got totally addicted. I became an adrenaline junkie, basically.
Yeah.
Because I'm always seeking that thrill. And this is why I ended up doing stand-up comedy, because it's a crazy job, right? Standing up in a room full of strangers to try to make them laugh, that's nuts. I mean, massive pressure. But when it goes well, it's incredible, right? And then theatre, and then doing a YouTube channel. I mean, I'm definitely a junkie for that high vibe feeling.
Yeah.
But a lot of people feel really uncomfortable doing that sort of thing.
Yes, and I feel like that's their trap, really. That's something that needs to go beyond. It'll be related to some, maybe as a child, when you're free, often you're squashed,
Yeah,
and that
yeah.
can really take us out of our power. So when we're acting and being someone else, it not only does it shift the energy, like you're saying, but the amazing thing about embodying somebody else is that you can kind of adopt their strengths and take them on as your own. It's like you start to build a toolbox of abilities. You start to understand that it's not really it's like you start to like attract them. So it gives you more abilities because you've been different people. Okay. And this sounds a bit bonkers, but this is literally how I've done it. Right. And so, but also, even if you're not going to like act a different way, even if you stood a different way, even if you changed your gait slightly, even if you bent down slightly differently, changing the way that you embody yourself and behave is a great way of breaking from that like monotony and that sameness. So there's other ways that you can do it that don't involve yourself. You could like change your house around, like move things around in totally different positions. So it's kind of shifting that. But there are also other ways, like when you want to like create a glitch in the matrix, you can do purposeful actions that have no intent. So the great thing is, like, if you're going to do something, you're going to get like an object and you're going to go and like put it in a random place. There's no intent to do it, but you're literally affecting the quantum field because you're acting completely out of character. So you're out of logic, so you're out of time, and you're actually you're backing it by actually not just thinking it, oh, I'm out of time, you know, you're literally doing something that proves that you're not abiding by those rules. So those are like some things that you can do. And it's amazing when you start doing that, acting differently, or acting, you know, doing these like these actions that have no logic, you start to welcome that experience back from the Matrix too.
Yeah, and that's the path to true sovereignty. Either that or schizophrenia, one or the other. You should call this success through schizophrenia.
Oh my God.
No, but it's like you know, somebody has been ringing my doorbell for the last 3 days to get me to fill in a census, right? And then they ended up, and I just refused to answer the door. And then when the census comes through the door, and I just threw it in the bin. And you know, I had a quick look at it before I threw it in the bin and said, "This is compulsory." I'm like, "Well, who says so?" And I was trying to explain this to the kids. I said, just because somebody knocks at your door and asks you to do something, you have absolutely no reason to do what they say. But everybody falls. This is really how the Matrix holds people, because it just, people feel like they have to respond. And this is how they get away with this this completely fraudulent legal system that they have when they ask you questions, or if the police ask you questions, or if a bailiff comes to your door and says, "Are you Mr. this or Mrs. that?" If as soon as you answer that question, you've entered the contract and you're under their thing. But if you don't, it's very, very empowering. And stepping outside of that, I mean, I remember when the TV license people came to see me, and I got prepared for it because I deliberately didn't pay it, and I got rid of the TV because I knew what it was doing to me and my kids. When they finally turned up, I remember the fear that I felt just before I opened the door, because I was going to throw common law at them, and I was going to film them, and I had to remember my lines, and it was out of character because it was me not conforming at all. And when it worked, I mean, for people watching this who haven't heard this story before, basically I learned that they have no right to come to your door. It's an implied consent that they're taking. So you have to say to them, "I revoke your implied right of access to this property. Now please leave." And as soon as you say that, they have to leave. And it's like magic, you know. It's like, whoa. And but the fear that I felt was really, it was literally like, there's a picture on my website, themarkattwoodshow.com, of the firmament, and it's a picture from the 1600s that was drawn of a guy popping his head through the firmament and looking around, which is kind of like where we're at.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And I'm
like,
really excited.
I remember you saying, like, on a video recently, like, is it flat, or is it a globe, or is it a donut? You know, it's like, what the fuck is it? And it's like, what it's like, it is what it is. Do you know what I mean? There is no answer to that. Like, and it's like, that is like, it's all about us, you know? It's not about that. It's about this. And that, you know, and that is so empowering. It's so empowering because we are literally creating the whole of reality in places, parts of the world where you can't even touch, you can't even see. Like, that's how big the of an impact that we have in doing these things in our life. And this is why I feel like it needs to be drummed in, because like, it's so simple and so divine and exquisite. Then who would have thought it would have worked when we're just being told that everything's hard work? You have to work really hard. You have to think really hard about these things, when we've just been ripped from our power has just been taken from us. So a friend of mine was sharing that she's been using language, like, instead of saying like, "I'm ready" or "I'm prepared," she'd be like, "I'm unready, I'm unprepared," and just put an "un" at the front of every word. And that was a fantastic way of shifting. I'm not ready. Ready's in time, you know, ready's like part of that. So like you said, using language in a way to like, I'm unready. And that's great. That's where it's at. There's nothing I need to do. There's nothing I need to be. I'm already there. I'm already home and dry. There's no more healing that needs to be done.
That's right. And I think, you know, jokes do this as well, you know, and you know, my kids are always telling jokes. I mean, just flipping things around just to, because it makes people conscious. It flips them out of their sleeping state. And one came to mind then with the kids the other day. I said, right, let's get this road on the show. And then they're like, but do you mean show on the road, Dad? And I'm like, no, road on the show. And then they have to think about it. And it's just silly little things like that that I enjoy. And I like, I think that's why jokes are so good, because you have to be, normally when I'm telling jokes, people just look at me. They're not actually listening, and so much of what we do is really unconscious. So I love that. Any other tips?
So I have this little thing that I got from What the Bleep Down the Rabbit Hole back
that movie with the deaf woman?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I watched that about 10 years ago. Yeah.
Yes. When my life fell apart in 2014, I needed something to get through, because it kind of pushed me out of time because it was that traumatic. So I needed something to feel safe when I was in the unknown every single day. And I've kept this piece of paper ever since that time, because this got me stable to rent my house and create my job, and it got me to actually create things from a place where I literally I actually did go to the doctor and I said, I'm a hybrid. I said, listen, right, I was ready to be sectioned. It was that intense. I was like, listen, I'm a hybrid, and I know you're not going to really understand it, but I need some help. I feel really alone. And he was just like, oh, you're such a lovely girl. Oh, what do you do? And I'm like, are you listening to me? I'm telling you that I'm really I'm really fucked up, mate. I'm telling you that I'm an alien. Not only do I believe him, I am one, right? And I'm thinking, what the hell am I walking into? So that's when I really understood that there was no person who was going to be there for me. It was my job. You know what I mean? So fortunately that worked out that way, and I didn't get put in a straitjacket, but I know. So here's the thing. I think it was what's his name? Dr. Joe Dispenza. I think this is what he said, right? So I'm taking this time to create my day, and I'm affecting the quantum field. If it is, in fact, that the observer is watching me do this, and there is a spiritual aspect to myself, then show me a sign today that you paid attention to any one of these things I created, and bring them in a way that I won't expect. So I'm surprised in my ability to create and experience these things, and make it so that I have no doubt it has come from you. So I would say that in the morning after a list of things I wanted, like a shopping list. And I felt protected, I felt guided, and I felt loved. And it helped me through those years, those really tough years, until today. So I just wanted to share that, because that gave me like a superpower.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah. If by Rudyard Kipling did that for me.
Yeah. Yes, I never read it until I heard what you said, and I read it and I thought, blimmin' heck.
Saved my ass, that poem. Thanks, Mrs. Haygate. Right, we're nearly out of time. Where can people get hold of you, Grace, and connect with you?
Well, I have a channel called The A Plan, and that's where I talk about weight loss and transformation in terms of body.
Yeah.
So they're welcome to come along there if they want.
All right. Well, give me the link and I'll put it underneath this video.
Okay, thank you.
But it was really nice to talk to you. I really appreciate that chat. It was very interesting. But I'm out of time. I have to go and do dad things.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm an Aries too. So congratulations on Aries season.
No shit. I knew, I could tell. Yeah. We're a bit much for most people, but yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice to meet another Ram.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, happy birthday when it's coming.
I don't know when it is, actually. When is it? What date is it? 28th? 14 days, I think. No, 13, 14, 15. 15 days. 2 weeks. Thank you. And you. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Great to meet you. Thanks, Grace.
You too. Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.